If anybody can hear me, I think give me a heads up, that would be good. Can you hear? Okay. Okay, right, here I am. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Jeff Wolf Green and Pluto and my own astrology chart, and I'm going to explain the importance of Pluto in the chart because it's to do with our soul journey from the evolutionary perspective. And a lot of my work that I've learned is through evolutionary astrology and a guy called Simon Vorster who uploads some brilliant stuff, which I suggest you check out. Somebody saying hello to me. Yes, brilliant. Thanks for telling me. I can see on my mobile that I've got a comment there. Right, so what I'm going to do is explain the importance of Pluto and how we can, by understanding it, it can make our soul journey easier than because we get to objectify our lives. And the whole point of astrology is to objectify. It's not about predicting, you know, am I going to meet the perfect man? Am I going to win the lottery and stuff like that? What we want to look at is our soul journey. And particularly, I'm going to show you my my own chart now, and you'll be able to see on my chart when it comes up, you'll be able to see that I've got some rings around the Saturn planets here. So I'm going to show you what this means. So if you've got your date of birth and time of birth and place, and time is going to be the most important thing because it's going to show the houses that your planets fall into, and it's going to show you your rising sign. And without the time of birth, you're not going to get, no time means that you don't get the right house placements and you don't know what your rising sign is. And the rising sign is important as where, you know, the houses are important to understand what's happening for us. You can see with my own chart that I've got some rings around here, and I've got where you can see the AC where my pointer is now. Also, if anybody wants any questions as I go, just go for it. So when I was born, I am Scorpio rising. I was born on the 21st of May, 66 at 8:30 p.m. And you've got here that I'm a Scorpio rising. And you can see up here where my pointer is that I've got Pluto. So when I was born, the generation I was born into, Pluto Virgo, means that we have got the Pluto Uranus signature there. And this is quite an important, you know, sort of thing that happened in the 60s. It's where people began to break free of limitations. And the generation I'm now in, that like everybody's sort of in their 50s and so forth, that basically are having certain experiences right now that are really hard. And I think every generation is going to have its own signature of hardships. Like if you're Pluto Scorpio, if you're Pluto Sagittarius, if you're Pluto Leo. And the only way we can know that is by the year that we were born. And we can Google that if you don't know what you are in, where your Pluto is, because the Pluto Virgos would have been from the middle 50s, 56, 57, 58 actually, I think it was, until 70, 72, 71, 72. So we can begin to understand, you know, more about our own path in life and the generation we were born into, and understand the hardships that take place in our lives and what we're here to evolve. You can see, so that's the first one I'm pointing out, that conjunction. When you look at your chart, it's really good to look at the conjunctions that you've got. You can see that I've got quite a few going on here, that I've got Neptune in my 12th house conjunct my south node, which is past life in evolutionary astrology. Then the other thing you've got, you know, in opposition to that, I've got my north node. It's in my Taurus and it's in my 6th house and it's conjuncting. You can see I've got 23 there, 24, 25, and my sun, they're all conjunct. So it tells a story. We're able to work out our own story by looking at our chart. And we can see here that I've got, again, my generation, Saturn takes 28 and a half years to move around a chart. So the time I was born, a lot of us born in a particular time in the 60s have got the Chiron Saturn conjunction as well, which meant that it was opposing the Pluto and the Uranus. And the Chiron is our wound. So when you look at your own chart, you're going to be looking at that too. Then what you can do is, when you know where your Pluto is, as you can see, my Pluto's there in the 8th, it's in the 9th house, but it's just touching into the 10th. So it's conjunct my MC. So we allowed an orb of up to 10 degrees when it comes to certain planets. Some planets we allow an orb of, so an orb is like 3 degrees, 5 degrees, 10 degrees. It's how we define what a conjunction is in astrology. And I don't know if anybody watching there knows where their Pluto is. It would be really interesting to see if anybody actually knows where their own Pluto is. And if you do or don't, then you can just basically go to astro.com, and as long as you've got your time of birth, you're going to be able to find out very easily where your Pluto is. So what we do with Pluto, the baseline in evolutionary astrology is we take our Pluto and we look at where it is, and then we want to work towards the polarity. So for me, I've got a 9th house Pluto, but the 3rd house is the polarity, and it's in Pisces. So for me, I would be looking toward moving toward that. We can't get rid of our past, we can only integrate it. And it's powerful knowledge to understand for me that the way forward in my life, 9th house Pluto is basically the bigger picture, the cosmos, and learning and teaching. But what I need to do is basically evolve to my polarity, my 3rd house, which means that I ask people questions. So instead of just like giving out information and just, I'm right and I know it all, the way that I'm going to evolve is going to the polarity, which is my 3rd house. And then I'm going to ask people questions and just not, blabber on about myself, because with the 9th house Pluto, that is the danger, that we've got all of this information. And it means that when we interact with people, we can almost like just think we know everything and not see other people's points of view. So the way that I've learned to evolve that is definitely by learning to ask. And that's been hard for me, to ask people questions, because I've got so much knowledge that often I don't think I know it all. But somebody might say something like, they'll say, "Oh, read this book," and I say, "Well, I've read it." So clearly we can't do that in every instant, but none of us know it all, but it's a way of being in the world. So I'm just going to read to you as well. I don't know if there's anybody out there who was born in the 60s watching. I know I've got 4 people watching, but it would be interesting, because if you were born at, between 1958 and 1971, 72, you're going to have the Pluto-Uranus conjunction like I have. Pluto takes 245 years to move around a chart, and Uranus takes, I hope I get this right, 84. So that, that because they're moving at different speeds, or it might be 184, you forgive me if I'm wrong, 84 I think it is, yes, because it's 7 years through each house. So Uranus goes 7 years, 7 years all the way through. You can see that my Uranus, since I was born, you can see it's up there in the 9th house on my MC, but now the transit, it's moving through my 6, it's just going into my 6th house, which the 6th house, it's going to break free of my limitations of my working life. And that's exactly what it's doing. It's basically I've had a change of what I do as work, and it means that there's not going to be the stability that I've had in the work that I've had now. Because of what I'm doing, it's not stable work, in the sense that I don't know when I'm going to be doing it and when somebody's going to book for a session or anything like that. It just happens, and I have to have the faith that it just comes to me as I need. So let me tell you a little bit about this Pluto. One more thing before I jump ahead. The other thing we do in evolutionary astrology, so we look at Pluto, polarity, then the North Node and the South Node. So South Node is past life, what we've come in with, our dispositions, our traumas, our fears, anxieties, our gifts as well. It's not all, doom and gloom. And then the other thing is that the North Node is the path that we're on, where we're moving towards what we need to integrate. So we integrate the whole chart. We're not getting rid of anything. There is no separation from where we've been and where we're heading. It's like there is no separation, which is a very spiritual saying, but to understand the depth of that, we have to embody what that means. It's very easy to say it, but to actually really get it takes a lot of self-introspection, because we can think we're separate in many ways. And, you know, the totality is there is no separation. We're made of the same stuff as the stars. And then we've got the deepest depths of the ocean, and then we've got all of our energy that we're interacting with people and each other. So there's definitely no separation, but that doesn't mean that we have to be passive about in our knowing that. That doesn't mean we're passive and we just say, well, there's no separation, we can let whatever happens. We've got free will and we have to make choices, and that's to do with the ego and the moon, our choices. Do I like chocolate ice cream or do I like vanilla? So we've got to, we're going to know what we like and what we don't like. And that's part of being a unique individual and our soul journey. So if you have this symbolism, the Pluto Uranus, which is 1958 until up to around 72. I'm going to read a little bit what that means. Somebody says, oh, they have it. Oh, brilliant, you have it. So who's that? Whoops. Oh my God, I'm jumping a slide. Let's go back. There you go. That's back to my slide. Oh, you have it. Okay. So here's what it means. It's basically the Uranus and Plutonian archetype is a lifelong issue, and it really is an issue. It's not a small thing. It's very hardcore, this thing that we went through. A lot of our parents, us that were born in the 60s, a lot of our parents would have been going into Woodstock and free love, and there would have been drug taking. I'm not saying that all of our parents did, but it would have been a very different time that our parents were born into. It would have been a lot freer, and it means that we wouldn't have got the attention maybe or the structure that we needed. So we've had to find our own way in life. I know a lot of people, particularly women my own age, I'm 53, who've not had children, for instance. Motor Knight says Pluto in Virgo, Uranus in Virgo, and Sun in Gemini. Oh, you've got Sun in Gemini too. Where's your moon, Motor Knight? I can see that you made a comment there, but I'll come back to this and you'll tell me in a minute. So the Uranian is a scorpionic intensity. So that Pluto Uranus, it is very scorpionic, and it's basically what we're looking for. Us lot that have got this symbolism is the bottom line, and in one way or another it's about liberation. And Uranus is that we want our liberation, we want our freedom, and that's very difficult for us because we've been born into a structure where there are so many rules and regulations, and the patriarchy is now being broken down. A lot of us who are in our 50s have had enough, so to speak, of the way things are playing out. So we're very necessary in society. We're very needed. We can feel like we're useless, and that, what's the point, and sort of woe me attitude, because we're stuck in things that we don't want to be stuck in. We were really born in the middle. It came away from, the structure of family and the structure of nurture, and we were thrown in the deep end of this freedom, which one love, which, in my view, it's not turned out to be one love for us. Pluto Virgos, it's been hard work, very emotional as well. And also, if we go back in history from the stuff that I'm learning, that, and I'm not talking from any religious aspect here, but Christ was Pluto Virgo also, and he was crucified on the cross. Like, the archetype of understanding the meaning of that is really deep. We can go so deep with the symbology on a chart. It's for all of us. Every soul has got their own individual chart, and we're all affected, by what goes on around us and what's happened in the past as well. What we got here? I think Motor Knight said he was, I don't know if he said he was Cancer moon there, or if she is, sorry, I could be making assumptions there. Let me know what moon you are. I was interested, Motor Knight, if you wish. So basically, this symbolism affects the deepest levels of the being at a soul level. It's a very deep placement. It shows, Uranus will show our past traumas and how affected the soul has been. So wherever our Uranus is, it's going to show that where we've struggled and where our trauma is. Also, it's about healing and liberation, and that's the intention. We want to be liberated from our wounding, and that's something that will take place as we, you know, go through life. And the more, the reason I got into astrology is because when I worked with somebody called Simon Forster, who you guys might know out there if you watch astrology videos, when he looked at my chart with me, and, you know, he didn't know anything about me, but when he pulled up my chart, he could see exactly what was going on for me. And I'm not talking about the finite details, like, you know, none of us can know what's going on, you know, exactly in another's life, but we can see the energy. And he could see that, you know, the trauma and abuse that I'd been through in childhood, and it shows in the symbology on my chart. But also on my chart, we see the gifts I have, and the, you know, the beauty that each of us bring into the world, and the best way to go, you know, the way we can head. If you look here, like if I go down to the current transit, we've all got the Pluto, Saturn in Uranus, in Capricorn, Pluto, Saturn in Capricorn, and mine is going through my second house of my values. And this has been where I've let go of so many things, like what I thought was valuable is no longer of value to me, you know, and that was a business, that was, you know, having the nice vehicle, and, you know, having a life of drinking wine, and, you know, all of that's gone. It's like, even sugar, I've even got rid of that. You know, 5 months ago, I stopped consuming sugars, anything with processed sugar in. So we can see how when planets hit, and when whatever house they're moving through, we're going to know roughly what's going on with us. And then we've got, with this Pluto Uranus, it's where our deepest trust issues, where we've been violated, we can see where we've been violated, and possibly in past lives as well. And let me just look here. Motor Knight says he's got his, or male or female. Sorry if I'm making suggestions there, I'm not sure, but you've got your moon in Cancer. That's brilliant. There's a lot of sensitivity there as well with the moon in Cancer, and our needs, like our security needs. So also the Pluto Uranus is up here. We've got intense, deep levels of shock and trauma have happened in ways that have blown apart the soul's security base. So we can see with that in Virgo how that again is affecting us, that, you know, symbolism. The intention is to heal at deepest levels, and healing at deepest levels is really, really tough, because it really means it's part of the work of Carl Gustav Jung. It's looking at ourselves to become whole. It's like, you know, we can be I was so traumatized in my childhood and by adults that, you know, I've come into this life and I just don't know who to trust. It's like I'm looking over my shoulder. It's like, can I trust you? Who can I trust? And that's part of the symbolism. Also, so previous limitations relate to security structures, and we need to reformulate, and this can be very intense. And also the Uranus there will accelerate things, because it's, you know, it's a way of accelerating us to be free and be liberated. It's also receptive of messages and what we want to trust, and trust issues. And these issues can be so unconscious in us, like, you know, who we trust and why we don't trust. Like, we won't even know why, what we're looking over our shoulders. But you can see, or maybe you can't see, but I know that with my Neptune and on my South Node, that, you know, my past life traumas would have been very intense as well. I wouldn't have known what hit me, so to speak. Who knows what we've been through in the past, but we can definitely get a feel for it in our dream state maybe. And I love the work that Carl Gustav Jung did. He looked at over 500 charts with people in his practice, in his time. He did look at astrology, and his daughter was also an astrologer, or became an astrologer. So in history, it's been used, you know, it's been used to help to heal and understand, objectify, and to heal our wounds. It does say also, I've got here, that Uranus-Pluto interface is a highly traumatized soul. And when we look at this symbolism, it's generally about unconscious fear and distrust, including of one's own perceptions. So we cannot even, it goes to a point where we might not even trust ourselves, you know, on our own perception. It's where the soul has experienced intense trauma, and not just isolated experiences. Like we can see in society where intense trauma goes on a daily basis for so many people, you know, that in countries where people, you know, they're struggling for food every day, it's like that intense trauma every day. It's like, where, you know, can I get clean water? The most baseline, you know, thing that people need to live. Can you, and imagine just how, you know, in the West, we're just so, you know, we've got a lot to be grateful for, but clearly the psyche doesn't work that way when we've been through, you know, traumas or deep pain, you know, like abuses in childhood. You know, we're suffering. So it's not just about being grateful and then bypassing what's been true for us, because a lot of spirituality can make us think that we need to bypass our own pain. But what we need to do is objectify it and then transmute it at some point. And that takes a lot of work. And this is the beauty of an astrology chart, that it will enable us to sit down with somebody and say, you know, look at the options of what's been going on and what the options that we have, you know, what is my way forward? We can also have, with this symbolism, the Pluto Uranus, it can create intense confusion and we can feel stuck at, you know, periods. So it means that I do, on occasion, I get stuck, like I'll be going forward, and then I'll just hit a wall and get stuck. And the whole point of having this symbolism ultimately will be to detach and then to objectify. And then we need to trust ourselves and stop second guessing ourselves. It's like trusting that gut instinct. And again, that's going to be different for each of us, you know, how we work that through. And then we need to look at our emotional wounds, how it affects our body, because our, you know, the psyche, the body gets affected. And that I will point out that it was stated in by Jeff Wolf-Green that, you know, that in higher evolutionary estates, the unconscious memories of the soul can come to the surface in an easier way. So, for instance, in dream states, I find that I really seem to pick up a lot. I solve a lot of stuff, like emotional stuff, when I'm in dream state. Every night I dream. Every night I go to bed, I get, I see eye to eye. I see faces, which can, some people, if you told that to a doctor, they probably think you've got some psychotic problem. But the reality for me is that I close my eyes, and as I'm going into sleep, I'll see eye to eye, and sometimes the side, an eye looking at me side to side. So it's telling me something. Dreams are really, really useful to get to the bottom of some things, you know, of what maybe we've been struggling with. But I feel that when I go into sleep state, I'm clicking in with source, whatever that means. I'm clicking in with, you know, other realms. And it's not a scary thing. It's just a natural thing that I do. And that would actually be defined by my Neptune 12 in the 12th house, Neptune in the 12th house in Scorpio, which is the depth generation. I am Neptune Scorpio, which, as with the Pluto Uranus, will also be Neptune Scorpio as well. And then on the South Node, past lives, it's like I'm figuring something out. And I'm aware how hard it is for all of us, you know, at the moment, like with the symbolism of Pluto conjuncting Saturn, you know, whatever age we are, it is tough. It is not easy what we're working out. This is the breakdown of patriarchy as we know it. And we can see that going on because we've moved away, you know, probably, I don't know, I've been born into patriarchal law, man's law. But when we look at natural law, you know, I've not experienced that in my life, but there would have been generations, you know, way before us that would have lived in a very natural way and honoring, you know, the earth and the animals and things. And we seem to be, if we think about it, you know, how people are turning towards their understanding about food and the mass production of meat and stuff like that, like, and the plastics that are falling, you know, being thrown into the water and the use of plastics, we can see that, you know, we are moving back to a natural way of being, but clearly that's, you know, that's work. It's not going to happen overnight. So let me just get this again, hop here. So this book, right, I'm going to bring it up again, this book. But what I'm going to do now is skip to my next slide. Oh, actually, it's Pluto. This one is Pluto 2, but you want Pluto 1 for your own understanding of your own Pluto. This book will change your life. I can tell you, it changed mine. It soothed me to know that I wasn't just experiencing things, you know, that it brought in, it helped me understand myself, know myself. So my next slide, I want to read this to you because it's from Uganda, which I've been listening to this book this week. And this is a chapter called Outwitting the Stars. It's only part of the chapter. And here he talks about astrology. And he says that astrology is the study of man's response to planetary stimuli. The stars have no conscience, benevolence, or animosity. They merely send forth positive and negative radiations of themselves. Oh, law was natural law. Celtic bread. Oh, that's beautiful to know. I'll Google that after Motor Night. Actually, there's a singer. I'm sorry, I'm changing the subject. I will go back to reading this. Motor Night. There was a singer that a friend introduced me to this week called Lorena. I can't remember her whole name, but it's such beautiful music, and it's very of the Celtic thing. I had a look at her chart, and I can't remember her surname, but she was born in I think she's 9 years older than me, so I'm 53, so she must be 62, and that beautiful stuff, and I love it. I really felt I felt like I'd been around in that period listening to her music. I felt like a connection of being in a different place. All right, so let's do this Outwitting the Stars again, this bit here. Uganda, okay, this is great stuff. And also Jeff Wolf Green refers to Uganda in his writings as well. Astrology is the study of man's response to planetary stimuli. The stars have no conscience, benevolence, or animosity. They merely send forth positive and negative radiations of themselves. These, let me move that out of the way, these do not help or harm humanity, but offer a lawful channel for the outward operation of cause-effect equilibriums which each man has set into motion in the past. So if we've had past lives, then we have somehow set into motion from the past. And what I want to add here is that when horrible things have happened to us in childhood, we can't just outrule that and say, well, we caused it. And there are people say, if you've had a terrible childhood, I've heard it I've had abuse in my childhood, and people say, oh, you chose that. That is, people saying things like that is just pure cruelty. So watch out for those who say, when you've had something horrible happen to you and people say it's your karma, they're not being very friendly. So maybe let them go, so to speak. And generally people who say that's your karma will use the terminology let go, so they'll understand what you're telling them when you let them go. Quite funny. So anyway, a child is born on that day and at that hour when the celestial rays are in mathematical harmony with his individual karma. His horoscope is a challenging portrait revealing his unalterable past and its probable future results. But the natal chart can be rightly interpreted only by men of intuitive wisdom. These are few. The message boldly blazoned across the heavens at the moment of birth is not meant to emphasize fate, the result of past good and evil, but to arouse man's will to escape from his universal thraldom. What he has done, he can undo. We've got to realize that. What he has done, he can undo. None other than himself was the instigator of the causes of whatever effects are now prevalent in his life. He can overcome any limitation because he created it by his own actions in the first place. And because he has spiritual resources which are not subject to planetary pressure. And that's chapter 16 of Outwitting the Stars. So let me see. I'm going to stop share. And I'm back. I don't know if anybody can see me out there. Let me see if I'm coming out of this, get rid of this and show. And hopefully I can pop back there. I can see a few messages and it'd be interesting to know, does anybody else know where their Pluto is in their astrology chart? I love to ask questions. It's my job. But it's a beautiful tool. So I know when I was showing the book, it was a bit of a small spot. Hey guys, that's Suraja Patel. I can't see what that is there. I can't pronounce your first name properly, so sorry if I got that wrong. So this is the book, okay? This is Pluto, and this one is Pluto 2, but you want to get Pluto 1 to understand your own Pluto, and then Pluto 2 is about the composite chart and relationships. So we can then begin to look at how we interact with people and then evolve our problems in relationship as well. So that's it. I thank you for whoever has been with me. Does anybody else know where their Pluto is? One more question before I go. Or does anybody know how to get their chart? Has everybody got their own chart? Because what you need, you go to www.astro.com and you need your date and time and place of birth. And don't play with your time of birth. You know, if you don't know it, then you need somebody to help look at your chart to see where you're, by asking certain questions. There's something called chart rectification. I'm not qualified to do that, but you know, people can play with it themselves if you understand what Pluto is and what it means. Like, I'm definitely, you know, there was a question on my time of birth at one point, but I'm definitely a 9th house Pluto because of how I behave and what I do. And it's you know, it's not so straightforward. If you start changing times on a chart, you'll see that Pluto doesn't automatically, as an example, move from, let's say you were born at 8 p.m. and Pluto's in your 8th house, and then you say, okay, well, I might have been born at 9 p.m. It doesn't mean Pluto's going to jump, you know, degrees that way. It sort of can jump right across the chart, Pluto, because of the equator and all of these different things, you know, and to do with degrees and whatever. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. I read charts as well, but what I'm going to be doing, oh, hang on. We've got Pluto is in Scorpio for me, the 11th or the 12th house, not sure. So what you would do, Siraya, I think that might be wrong, the way I'm saying it, but you know who I'm speaking with in chat. What I would say is use, in evolutionary astrology, Jeff Wolf Green, we use porphyry, which is the house system porphyry. So you can play with that, but if you have your time of birth, it's going to give you exact. So the question would be, do you know your time of birth? Is it on a birth certificate, or do your parents recall, and such like? You want the exact time. And then if you use porphyry, which is, that's the chart that when I showed my chart, that's what I use. I wouldn't use anything else myself, because that's what Jeff Wolf Green suggests, and that seems to, when I look at other people's charts with them and work with people, that's what I see works. I can see it in people's personalities. And something that Jeff Wolf Green always said was, you know, it's about correlation and objectifying and correlating. So we're integrating and we're looking at the whole thing. Another example, the moon moves, it takes 2.5 days to move through a sign. So I'm 17 degrees sun sign Gemini. If I was born, you know, let's say 10 hours later, my moon's going to be at a different degree, because the moon is moving really quickly. But the outer planets clearly don't move as, you know, they're moving a lot slower. So I hope you all enjoyed that, and I'll be back with more. But do check out your own chart, www.astro.com, and put your time of birth in, and the house system is porphyry. Okay, if you need help, I'm over on Facebook, so you can come and check me out. I've got a like page on Facebook, which is linked on my channel here, and other details below, and the book. I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.